Yes. Okay, I think that's recording. Okay. Okay. I want to thank you all for tuning into the Last Words with Babs podcast. I've got a special guest with me, Diana Robertson. I want to thank you for coming on the pod. And yeah, let's let my people know who you are and what you do.
Thank you. So my name is Diana Robertson. I'm the founder of Skills Me Academy. I'm also a communication skills trainer and TEDx coach and speaker. So hello, everyone.
Okay, so we start off with the beginning of the backstory towards how did you start doing this Skills Me Academy? How did I start up? And how did you start getting into supporting people and yeah, so your whole story, how did it start off with, basically?
Sure thing. So in the past, I used to be the type of person who is very shy, very introverted. I was the type of girl who would sit at the back end of the classroom, never raise her hand. And not because I didn't know the answers, I actually knew most of the answers. But I was absolutely terrified of the attention I'll get, or like the judgment potentially. So, and as you can imagine, I wasn't the most outgoing or social of people either. So that was me in the past. And to me, it didn't feel like a problem at all, because I mean, okay, this is me. That's just who I am. You're born either this way or another way. I wasn't born social. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But then, because for me, job success was always really, really important. And eventually one day I even wanted to become an entrepreneur potentially. So for me, when I finished school, I went to uni, there I started to realize that actually I don't have enough skills to become successful in this world. And specifically, it wasn't the skills that I had on paper. So my CV was good. I mean, my grades were excellent. My university was excellent. But that was enough for certain things, but not enough to get all the way where I wanted to. So for example, the first moment when I really realized I had an issue was job interviews or internship interviews.
Yeah.
And I remember I would apply to one place after another, and I would always, after the interview stage, I would always get a rejection. And in the beginning, I was sure that, well, it must be because I'm not smart enough, not hardworking enough, did not prepare enough, all these things.
Yeah.
But then one day after I got rejections from almost 30 places. So I was applying for investment banking. So we're talking about pretty much all investment banks in London. Once they rejected me, I was like, okay, hold on. What am I doing wrong? And what am I doing next? And at that point, I even started looking for jobs outside of banking, just gave up the whole idea of just pursuing my career, actually, and applied to other companies such as McDonald's. Kid you not.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't to make burgers. It was an analyst role at their office. But even so, we're talking half of the salary that my other classmates were aiming for. So just to give you an understanding that I have really lowered my standards there. And I remember when I came to their assessment center there, for the first time, I realized that, okay, this time I'll be good. This time I'm going to get a job, because all the other applicants, they came from universities I've never heard of. They had worse grades, and a lot of them didn't even have the main competency they required, which was knowing Excel, which for me, Excel was like, it was like basics, like alphabet, I loved it. So I thought, you know what, this time I'm going to get it. It's not the best job, but I'm going to get it. I'm the most qualified person here.
Yeah.
But then when they invited me to the last stage, again, the interview stage, I remember I came in, I saw the HR, I saw the director, and the director looked at me Like it's just, I think maybe he really, it was, maybe it's part of his job to be so intimidating. I don't know. But he just looked at me like this. So why should I hire you? And in that moment, of course I rehearsed, I memorized my answer, but in that moment, I have forgotten all of my words. My hands started to shake, my voice started to disappear, my face turned red. It really wasn't going well. I said something, I don't remember what I said, and I'm sure he doesn't remember either, because the next day I got a rejection letter yet again. So at this point, I realized I couldn't get to investment banking. I couldn't get a more normal job either. I mean, there must be something I'm not doing right. I mean, I am hardworking. I mean, why is this happening to me? And as soon as I found out whom the McDonald's guys took for that job, and I realized that they took a guy who wasn't actually the smartest of guys, but I saw how he performed at the assessment center. He was the type of person who was saying everything with so much confidence. You know, it was sort of charisma, I would say. I mean, in my head, I would associate him with a leader type of person. Now, it didn't make sense to me. Why would that be important for an analyst role where you're just sitting on Excel all day? But even so, it seems that the HR between the two candidates, one being more qualified, at least on paper, I'm talking about myself, and another being okay, but with great communication skills, to them, the second mattered much more, and they hired the second. And this was a moment of realization for me that, I know what I'm missing. It's those skills that I wasn't born with, those skills that I don't have, those skills that I have no idea how to develop. And honestly, until that point, I always believed that people are just different. Some people are born more social, more outgoing, and others are born more introverted, more shy, etc. But then that moment changed everything for me, because this is when I started to look for ways how I could develop those skills in me, even though I didn't believe it was possible at start. But I just had to. I wanted to get a job, you know, basics. And that's when I started to look for various things. I joined public speaking clubs, I joined debate clubs, improv, drama, you name it. I tried it all. And eventually, one thing after another, I started to realize that I am getting better. I am no longer so shy. I'm more outgoing. At networking events, I started to be the person who approaches people. I stopped waiting for somebody to approach me. Even if we take personal relationships, I stopped waiting for a guy to approach me. I started to be the one who approaches guys. And the lovely person, my husband, to whom I'm married today, I actually asked him out on the first date.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, I mean, just one thing after another, I realized how you can build those skills. I realized that I was totally wrong in believing that you're born one way or another. Actually, you can develop any social or communication skill. And I also, because I attended so many things, I also realized that there are a lot of the approaches don't work, because I wasted a lot of time on various things, some courses, some videos and things like that. And just through this journey, I realized what kind of things work like the fastest and what kind of things don't. And eventually later on, that's where the idea of Skills Me came along, where I thought, you know what, all great, I am sorted. But what about others? What about those others who just like myself have no idea that it's even possible to develop those skills and don't know how? So that's what we're trying to do. We're helping people build better communication and social skills. That's Skills Me Academy.
Yeah, that's a great inspiring story that you've shown there, and I think there's a lot of people who can help for sure with that story and the experience that you've gained and the skills as well. So how do you start becoming a TED speaker?
How to become a test speaker?
A
Is
TED,
that the
yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, not too hard.
Yeah.
Well, at least it was for me. It was easier than I thought it would be.
Mm,
So the idea, if you ever want to present a TED, I mean, TEDx or TED, they're all about ideas worth spreading.
yeah.
So you should have some sort of idea,
Mm,
some idea that in some way will benefit the world.
mm,
That's the main thing behind it. That's what they look for. And then if you have that idea or topic to share about, they also look at whether you have invested in that topic at all. So for example, let's say I want to talk about the topic of, I don't know, losing weight, for example,
mm,
but I'm bad at that. I don't really like, I haven't studied this. I don't know, I don't have large personal experience to do with this. Then I
mm,
would not be the right person to speak about that. But
mm,
then if you have invested some time and energy in the topic, and it doesn't have to be the research directly, it could even be experience, but if
mm,
it's research, of course, they'll prefer, or maybe if you wrote a book or something, again,
mm,
just look at their experience, whether you are the right person to speak about this topic, and then they combine the two. Good idea, and you are an expert in that field.
mm.
And also regarding good idea, it doesn't have to be, some people think that it has to be like a revolutionary new idea that nobody has ever mentioned in the past. You think it's probably such ideas don't even exist. It doesn't have to be a totally revolutionary thing, but it's probably something, let's say if it's a topic people spoke about, maybe you're looking at it from a slightly different angle,
Yeah.
and that one makes you slightly different.
Yeah.
Or of course, if you have a revolutionary finding, let's say you're in science or you found something, then of course that's also a great place to present your idea at TEDx. Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. So what sort of like support do you sort through your skills me, how
Mhm.
do you tend to like support people who maybe are not sure how to sort of how to speak or gain that confidence to speak? What sort of like skills do you sort of give them to help them to sort of gain that help?
Sure. I think I'll start not with the skills. I'll start with the approach.
Okay.
And by the way, you guys, you can always apply this approach. I mean, you don't have to come to Skills Me to get this approach. If you want, you're most than welcome to. But in general, it's the approach that we found that works the best to learning any communication skill. And here the idea is that when we ask people how, let's say, they lack a certain skill, let's say they don't know how to speak in public, for example, right? What is the first thing that they do? Like they realize they don't have the skill. They realize, let's say they need it for the job. What is the first thing they do? And most people said that they'll go on Google and they'll check. So how do I become a better public speaker? And then they do whatever Google directs them to. So it could be some articles, it could be then later be some YouTube videos, it could be sometimes be books, Udemy courses pop up all the time, or become a better presenter, etc. So,
Mm,
and then they use all those things. But the thing is, if you do that, you're actually wasting your time, because that's not how you build a skill.
mm,
And I know it seems to be the most natural thing. Oh, let me find out. Let me get more information, how I should be speaking, what I should be doing. But the truth is, with a lot of communication skills, I'm not saying all, but with a lot of them, actually, you already know what to do. You just can't do it, but you know how to do.
mm,
I'm going to give you an example. I
mhm,
want you guys all to think of a teacher you had in the past, any teacher who wasn't so great at presenting or at teaching. Okay, I only need one person. I know you probably have several right now, but think of that person, and right now in your head, give them a word of advice. What kind of thing they should improve to be better? So for example, I can think of one. That teacher, in my opinion, should be giving more examples, as speaking not so fast, because it was just overwhelming me with information. And you've got your own teachers too. Now, you can give them word of advice in your head, but I bet that if I was to take you now and put them in their role and ask you to teach that class, you'll probably do a worse job than that teacher does.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because we know how to do things, but we can't do them. And that's the thing with skills. You need to build it. And the only way to build any skill is by doing it. That's the only way. That's why the approach of just Googling and reading about something, it wouldn't work when it comes to, let's say, a communication skill. I'm going to give you another example, bicycle example. So when I ask people, okay, let's say your younger sister came to you and she was like, hey, please, can you teach me how to ride a bike? And how would you teach her? You have two options. One, send her on Google to read about how to do it, or actually, number two, you go out with her and put her in a bike.
Yeah.
Now, assuming you know how to ride a bike yourself, I'm pretty sure you'll choose the second approach. And this seems obvious. But with communication skills, for some reason, we forget the fact that to learn something, we need to do it. And the reason we forget or actually avoid is because we're afraid. We're afraid. I mean, what if, I don't do it so well. That's the thing I don't know. Maybe I should read about it. I'm not an expert yet. I need to find out more about it. You need to do it. So for example, we've taken this knowledge with us at SkillsMe, and what we do is that in every single class, we make sure that whatever skill that we teach, we make sure that people get to do it. Now, doing some skill in real life can be challenging. For example, if you're, again, back to public speaking, just as an example, if you need to present in front of your clients, in front of your boss, it might be high pressure. It might be difficult. You're not comfortable. And then it's even more scary to do it. And it's even harder to do it, which is why we take away this pressure, this massive pressure, and we put you in a more safe environment, more safe and more supportive, where if you don't have the skill, it'll still be hard, but it's just not as hard. And then you do it in a safer environment, and then you realize that, oh, I didn't die. Nothing bad has happened to me. In fact, several people liked me. Oh, maybe I could do it again. And then you increase the difficulty, but gradually. This is really, really important. You increase it gradually, because if you give somebody something too hard and they fail, their confidence might drop a lot, to the point that they won't be comfortable doing it again. So that's the key. You want to learn a new skill, find this kind, supportive environment where you can learn it, and then just increase the difficulty slowly, slowly, slowly. A great example of this, just like if you want to imagine this, think of yourself like a little plant. Let's say if I just put a plant outside in the harsh weather, this just new branch, all types of things could happen to it. Somebody could step in it and break it. Or maybe just the strong wind would blow it. Or maybe simply the harsh weather, one cold evening, and that's it, it's dead because it's not ready. But if I was to put it first in a greenhouse, water it, support it, give it the feed, wait for it to become stronger, then remove the greenhouse from around it, when it becomes a tree, well, good luck doing anything to a tree. Good luck breaking it. Probably going to break your leg rather than breaking a tree. And that's exactly what happens to your confidence when you build it. So build it where it's safe, and then slowly, slowly increase the difficulty. Hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. That's a perfect example of basically, a skill of having to talk, of building that confidence, and basically slowly you'll get better at speaking, and you'll learn what works for you as well, I guess, and help you to improve as well. So I think that is a great example. So what five things, if I could ask, what five things would you say contributed to where you are now from the time you was at then what five things has helped you to get from where you was to where you are now?
Okay, well, I haven't never thought of them as five things, but
Mm.
let me try to do that while I speak with you. Let me find those five things.
Okay.
Um, I think one of them is probably having this attitude of going forward no matter what,
Yeah.
because it would have been just so easy to give up at any point in my life, just so easy, not just in terms of finding jobs, but also in terms of, building my own business and stuff. Now, this is my second venture right now, or second slash third, depending how you count the first one, which was so. But the point is that it's really, 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 really easy to give up and just,
Yeah.
say, I'm not good enough for this, I'll do something else. But I just didn't. I don't know why, I just didn't. And I was thinking, like, if something doesn't work now, well, it surely should work one day. And I think it's just this not giving up and this patience, which might be even sometimes stupid at times when you think, okay, this is clearly not working, maybe you should stop doing it. But yeah, I think it's a combination of perseverance and positive attitude to things. I think those would be the top two for sure. Yeah, and positive attitude, definitely, because I know a lot of people who are very negative in general. And of course, when you're negative, it's hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. When it's not close, it's really hard to see it. But when you encourage yourself to think positively, then, okay, I don't see it, but I will see it one day.
Yeah.
So that would be top two.
Yeah.
Now it gets harder. Definitely practicing what I do. Definitely. So again, back to how you build a skill, you practice it. But in general, I would say that applies to not just my communication skills, but for other things as well. So for example, in the past, I used to be really unconfident and not good at organizing anything or leading. So for example, I remember when I was in year 10, I organized my first ever birthday party where I invited the entire classroom. And I tried really, really hard to do it well. And I even thought of some games and things we could do there. It was a newly opened pizzeria, so a pizza place. So I thought it would be great. But people didn't like it. I realized I made some serious organizational mistakes, such as giving only 2 choices of pizza. Apparently, that's not enough for anyone. You need way more choices than pizza to be happy. And the games, they just didn't appreciate the games. They didn't want to play anything. And it was a bit dull at the end as well. So it did not go well. And since then, I've been thinking of myself as a person who was poor at organizing things, and generally poor as a leader as well, because people did not really follow me. I'm just like more on my own. And that used to be the case in the past. But then what made me change is that I started, by the way, not intentionally, I was forced to take some leadership projects in my life. First, it was small things, but later bigger and bigger. And I realized that by taking those roles and by organizing things, time after time, I really became better. So it's just kind of practicing certain thing that gets you there, even if you don't have it in the beginning at all. Just one thing at a time. Again, practice, you get it, just like you get any communication skill. So far we've got perseverance, positive attitude, practice. Another one, I would say feedback, because it's if we go back compared to school, since I'm talking about school a lot, at school, you've got this thing where you've got the teachers marking your tests and stuff. You've got a grade, you know that you didn't do so well. And if it's a good teacher, they're going to write exactly how you should improve it. So the progress becomes quite easy. I mean, might be hard, but at least you know what to do. But in real life, we don't have that. Well, unless you're taking some test for something, that's one thing. But in general, you don't know how well you did at a conversation with somebody, or you don't know how to improve. Maybe you know you didn't do so well, but you don't know what you should have done better. You might have some thoughts, and these thoughts could be all wrong. You don't know until you actually get to hear the other person's opinion.
Yeah.
And that applies to a lot of things. It applies to communication skills, but then also any other things that you do, various projects. So for example, back to leadership projects, one of the reasons I got better with time, it wasn't just because I built my confidence and because, I felt like, now I'm better, let me do something more difficult. No, it was because that after a single thing, I was asking people for feedback. I was like, okay, so how did I do? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What did you think of me and my leadership style? And sometimes I knew that people won't tell it to my face. So what I did is I gave them anonymous feedback forms, and specifically asked them the questions that I cared about. And very soon I started realizing what things I did right and what things I did wrong. And doing that, and that became a process that I do for everything. So for example, now when we have classes, I always have this thing, like let's say I attend a class with another trainer, and I just note down various things. I sometimes ask people at the end, what did they feel? I send them messages in private sometimes, just to kind of gather this feedback all the time. And then next time we do something, we implement it. I don't know if that made sense, but it applies not only to classes, that applies to everything to do. So yeah, can we stop at 4?
Yeah, that's fine, I could do that. I could do that.
That was the perseverance, positive attitude, practice, and getting feedback and implementing it at every single thing that you do.
Yeah,
hope that helps.
Perfect, that works. Okay, so my next question, I guess, would be what so future plans do you have, or what goals do you have now for Skills Me? Where do you see it going in the next 5 years or 4 years from now?
Right now, we are not that big of a company.
Okay.
We have 4 people working part-time, plus myself and plus 2 trainers. So that makes us 7. It might sound like a lot, but honestly, it isn't to be where we want to be. So right now, what we have is 2 main programs to which we take people. One program is about storytelling. It's called Connect with Anyone. And that's this, it's a great skill to learn in everyday conversation, and in conversations just like this. If you noticed, most of what I've been telling you so far is stories. And just so you know, I used to be horrible at that in the past when I started to tell a story, even in front of friends. We're not talking high pressure environments. In the past, people would interrupt me and not listen till the end because I wasn't interesting. I was quite boring when I told my stories. And again, that's a skill I learned and realized it brings a lot of positivity into your life once you can learn to capture people's attention and guide them with a story. So that's one path that we have. And the second path we have is impromptu speaking. Again, in a sense, this is what we're doing right now, where you're asking me questions that you did not send to me. In the past, I would normally go like, oh, that's a hard question. Like, remember those interviews, like they asked me, why should they hire me? And I was just like, of course I knew why they should, but I just couldn't answer. But then it turned out to be also a skill that you can develop. And we thought this is something that will bring a lot of impact to people. So we launched that path literally in this summer. But that's only 2 things. But there are hundreds of communication skills out there. And we're investing a lot of effort into these, but we want to be able to offer more. So I think the next step, very likely, I don't know for sure, but very likely is going to be small talk and potentially maybe networking skills, because this seems to be something that a lot of people struggle with. And it seems like a lot of people really struggle with when it comes to speaking to strangers specifically, and people they met for the first time. Ooh, what shall I say? Shall I talk about the weather again? Okay, I talked about the weather. What's next? And again, it's a skill that you can learn. And we're thinking maybe potentially offering that. at some point.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I guess my sort of last point would be like, my last point would be, I guess, if so, what advice would you give to, me, to maybe somebody who maybe, let's say they've finished uni, maybe they're trying to find ways of trying to establish their career and they're not sure how best to move forward. They're they're not sure how to connect with other people who are maybe more experienced and try to build a personal relationship or a business relationship with them. And they need some advice from you, from Skills Me, about how to move forward and achieve their career goals. What advice? We'll say three instead of five. What three tips would you give that person to sort of move forward?
With their career goals. Yeah,
Yes,
they've just
yes,
finished uni or about to finish uni. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I would say that number one, speak to more people. And this is something I realized way, way later in my life, how important that is. I remember my university once presented this thing that they gave us a diagram where this is how people are getting hired. And there was like 1/3 of the people, of the graduate, they find their job through networking. 1/3 or finds it through just normal routes. So like when you apply for jobs and applications, just like the normal standard things. And then
yeah,
1/3 that just does something else, I think continues education or takes a gap year or whatever. But it basically, from people who find jobs, half of them get the jobs not through direct routes that the companies are advertising. And this was really weird for me because that's what you see. I mean, everybody's applying there.
yeah,
It turned out to be no. And but so okay, so how do you get to speak to those people that are hiring potentially? Well, you want to put yourself in environments where those people are present. So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me when I wasn't looking for a job. For my dissertation, I wanted to write something about the something about entrepreneurs. Basically, I needed to interview a lot of entrepreneurs. So I started to just look for at Meetup, the Meetup platform where you can find a lot of events in London and loads of countries as well. I went to Meetup and I started to find events which had entrepreneurs. And I just started to basically run after them, ask them, oh, can you please help me with my dissertation? And while doing that, I got several potential job offers. And that's when I wasn't looking for those jobs at all. But why? I just put myself in a place where there are people who potentially could give me a job. And there are a lot of things, a lot of events like that. It doesn't have to be just with entrepreneurs. It could be, let's say you're into pharmaceuticals. Maybe you could attend some events to do with pharmaceuticals and things like that, maybe some sort of conferences, and just having casual chats. And then in the casual chat, just mention, oh, I'm now applying for various companies, blah, blah, blah. Do you have any open roles by any chance? So it's not like that's the reason I came, but kind of, oh, by the way, oh, no, maybe you know some people who are potentially hiring. Anyway, you could get me in touch with anybody. And you'd be surprised by how many people are actually willing to help you. And if they like you, they would actually want to help you. And maybe even without you pushing the idea, they would offer you something. You never know.
yeah,
So because almost, well, at least when I graduated, almost half people got their jobs through networking. So
yeah,
that's number one thing, network more. I would say second thing is don't be stuck on the idea that, okay, this is what I'm doing and that's it. Just like I was stuck with the idea, I'm doing investment banking and that's it. You know what? Eventually, I did end up at one, it was an internship, it was an Insight Week for investment banks, one investment bank. And I remember when I went there, all those people with me, they were just so excited. And I mean, so was I, don't get me wrong. And later they were like, okay, now we're going to show you the trading floor. And everybody's like, oh, trading floor, just like in movies and stuff. Okay, so we come into this trading floor and this is what I see. I see one massive room, which resembles some sort of warehouse to me, no windows, with thousands of people sat there, no personal space, so their elbows are touching. They asked them something about their work balance. They said they don't really, they're lucky they get to quickly grab lunch from downstairs and bring it upstairs and eat it in front of a computer. Great life balance. And I'm just looking at all that, and it just doesn't compute to my head. Why on earth would anybody spend willingly 12 hours a day, every single day, sometimes come on Saturdays, to a warehouse without windows and without personal space at all? And for me, when I saw that, I was just like, maybe that's not my ideal workplace. And we might have these big expectations of this dream job, but when we end up there, we realize that actually there are things that are not right about it. Even if all of your life, maybe all of your school time and university time, you were dreaming of that thing. So please just be mindful of that. That does happen. And that's why most of the adults, most people, they have worked in more than one industry, or at least in more than one role. Like first accountant, then project manager, first, I don't know, this, then that. That's the reason, because they realize there's something not right there and they start looking for something that fits them better. So basically just come with a very open mindset and don't get stuck like, okay, I want to do this and that's it, because maybe it'll end up to be the thing that you hate the most in your life. You don't know that. So that would be number 2. And number 3, I would say, of course, don't forget about the value of communication skills. Now, some people have been born with amazing ones, in which case, well done, you guys, just, enhance them further. But a lot of people don't have those skills naturally, okay? And there is a lot of room for improvement. And if you were to start at any point, I will start now. I will start at university immediately, because then you actually have more time for this stuff. Later, you'll have less time. And arguably, you need those skills early in your career, so you can get more opportunities. And the better you become a speaker, the more opportunities open their doors to you without you even, sometimes things you don't dream about, you end up there. For example, with TEDx, I wasn't actually applying for TEDx as a speaker. I was doing it as volunteering. I was applying as, I contacted several organizers as a TEDx coach, just to help to prepare their speakers, because it's just something that I enjoy. And I thought I'll do this pro bono. That was my only thinking. But after the interview and the conversation with the TEDx organizer, she was like, you know what, actually, I think you should speak. That's how it ended up. I wasn't even going for it. Why? I am sure it's my charming personality, but it's my communication skills that allowed me to be that way. And it's amazing how many doors start opening in front of you once you learn how to present yourself well. So basically 3 things. What was the first one?
Networking.
What's that?
You said networking.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Networking, first networking. Second, don't just get stuck with one idea, and that's be basically flexible. And 3, work on your communication skills.
Perfect.
And 3 is much easier, I gotta tell you. Thank you.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, so thank you, Diana, for doing this, for sharing your wisdom, for really inspiring people, and really helping them to really sort of get to their dreams and their goals, and really trying to help people. So I want to thank you for doing that, and I want to thank you most importantly for being here and being a guest on my show. Before we leave everybody, where can people find Skills Me, and how can people reach you?
So in case you're interested in our course and our programs, you want to develop our skills with us, best place to go to would be our website, which is skillsme.co.uk. if you are more into just exploring the whole idea of personal development and improving your skills, I suggest to check out our Instagram, where we publish a lot of advice and free tips on how to become better. It's just like you can get one tip a day and just gradually get better. So that would be at Skills Me Soft Skills. So Skills Me Soft Skills in one word. And finally, if you want to talk to me directly and chat to me directly, connect to me on LinkedIn. Just type Diana Robertson Skills Me. I'll be the first person to pop up. And when you connect to me, just write there that, let's say you found me on the podcast, just so you know who you are, because a lot of people try to sell their services, so I don't accept them. So if you just write a quick introduction, then I'll happily accept your request and chat to you and answer all of your questions.
Perfect. I want to thank you for coming on to the show, Diana. You've been a pleasure, and hopefully we can have you on at some point before the end of the year, and speak more about how we can help people and to see how far you've sort of moved on from here. So yeah, thank you for coming on.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
No problem. Okay, guys, thank you for the show. You've been tuned into the Last Words with Babs, and I'll see you all in the next podcast episode. See you all later.
Bye, all.
God bless.